Hello, dear friends. Agency news headlines give a lot of information, but the trees do not show the forest, the big picture. That's why it's important to analyze the background. Opinion piece. 2022 will be historic, hysterical and histrionic. The most important news. The year of the tiger, paws at the bottom of the barrel. The end of private central banking. No need to guess how it will happen. Charlie Watt denies John or Savin. Spain to issue new gold coin. Russia's new gold exchange will be a game changer. The euro is badly designed, perhaps deliberately. European Union desperate for cash as collapse continues. QFS to be backed by 5 currencies, says Wolverine. Greed is an unholy cancer that sinks those who harbour it. Let's start. The story of what will happen in 2022 and beyond would be the most important news in the history of humankind. Centuries of disinformation will soon come to an end. Disclosure means light and change for the healing of humankind and our planet Earth. The bulk of the profound changes will be revealed in an avalanche of startling news, coming simultaneously from multiple sources. And that will be the beginning of a new era in the history of humankind. People will witness great changes in our world since the sinking of Atlantis some 12,000 years ago, according to Peter Bremeyer. The world financial system is collapsing. Currencies are falling and markets are decoupling. In due course, the whole system will collapse. The world economy is imploding and can no longer sustain itself. The new QFS system will be introduced, designed to allow the new world order economy to flow smoothly into the new quantum financial system. The revaluation of money is ready to begin at the right time, and these changes would be the beginning of the QFS. The new quantum financial system QFS is already integrated and ready to replace the current fiat monetary system. Many banks have already switched from the old SWIFT system to the new SIPS money transfer system. Once this revaluation starts, all countries will start minting new global and asset-backed currencies based on the new quantum financial system. These changes are expected to happen simultaneously. A whole series of dominoes would fall, mass arrests would come to light, and the Hysterical program would be set in motion. The truth will set us free. For 20 years now, a global effort has been underway to establish a new financial system called a global restart, in which wealth-based sovereign currencies replace the old system for global exchange. This change is already setting and is taking place right now. The step was taken more than a decade ago from Asia, where the largest amount of hard assets that have formed the backbone of the global financial system since the beginning are located. That was agreed and signed as the basis of the 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement, but it was never deliberately done. When the central banks disappear, the first thing you know is that their debt claims would become null and void. In a last-ditch effort, central banks are raising interest rates, which could cause the permanent collapse of the system, taking the blame themselves as intended. The economy has 2 phases: the manipulated economy that has been manipulated for a long time, more than 120 years, and the economy of the people. The people's economy is the real economy. It is what people feel every day. It is the money you have in your bank account, the job you have, whether you have enough money to pay the rent, the mortgage, or to buy a house, a car, or whatever. When people's homes go up in price in the market, they feel very good. Everything goes in their favor. They still have jobs, but they feel better because their property is going up in value. This is the concept that central bankers use against us. Some people have the advantage of benefiting from the inflation created, but others have lost a lot through this very process. The bankers use this manipulation to convince people that the economy is doing well. Even the stock market is raised to make people think that the economy is flourishing. Every humankind has its own persistence and can decide for itself, every human being, and can decide for itself what is good or bad. Wake up to stop oppression. Human being in numbers is many times greater than politics, so we must prevail. They do not own the world. They do not have carte blanche to do what they do. If we don't tackle them, other problems will come. We will not be intimidated. The dark forces are losing their power over humankind. Reset news. The European Union is desperate for money as the systematic financial collapse continues. The debt market is becoming unstable. If debt market instability continues, it is over, writes Gregory Manarino. There is no need to guess how the great financial collapse will happen, because the signs are obvious. Unstoppable collapse of derivatives to destroy currencies, according to Alasdair MacLeod. In the midst of a derivatives collapse, the world's central banks will have to save the system by creating currency. The further expansion of currency supply will ultimately destroy the currency, writes MacLeod. Spain to issue a new gold coin with the image of a bull. The Spanish Mint will issue a new once pure gold coin showing the image of a bull with a face value of €1.5, which would be ridiculous for an ounce of gold. But this coin is not intended for circulation but for collectors. The Fed is technically bankrupt and would be officially bankrupt by the end of the year. All the banks that depend on the Fed would be bankrupt at that time. They will try to convince us to opt for their central bank digital currency, which wouldn't happen for several reasons. It is centralized, it is going to be hacked, and we know it is set up as a social credit system like the Chinese. In quotes, "Holy cow, I swallowed a bee." Sudden lunch from an Ontario premier. They don't want us to eat bugs, then let them lead by example. Hal Turner says that earlier this week he received 2 reports that Walmart had allegedly cancelled billions of dollars in order. Most of the food recalled during the crisis is actually food being diverted to government storage bunkers. The QFS would be backed by 5 currencies according to Wolverine. The QFS system would be based on 5 currencies, which would be gold-backed, XRP, silver-backed, XLM, copper-backed, XDC, palladium-backed Algorand, and lithium-backed IOTA. Wolverine believes that this would be the crypto assets needed to support digital currency in the QFS, but this would only be a personal opinion. Power outage. A solar storm would cause a blackout of the power grid, creating the perfect cover for them to destroy stock markets. Last week, at least 3 solar storms hit the Earth, none with much force, but together they were enough to trigger multiple geomagnetic storms. Whiplash has said that this solar storm would be used as a cover piece to blow up the stock markets and move all the money in the world. This cannibalistic flare could be the cover story for the collapse of the stock markets. Nationwide internet outages in Pakistan on Friday. Connectivity is down more than 60% across the country from usual levels, with reports that it has been caused by heavy rains and flooding. Polemic or controversy. Charlie Ward offers assurances on Yesara. John or Juan or Savin recently denied that Yesara exists. I imagine we will hear later what movement and counter-movement he was part of. But Charlie Ward made a short video recently assuring us that Yesara is real and ongoing, linked to the QFS. Several people are very upset with Juan Savin for his military deception in denying Yesara and saying that the redemption would be a scam. It is his way of giving us a military deception. The coalition would give a date only if it was a military deception, because they are not going to give us a real date of when things are going to happen. It will come like a thief in the night for a bigger surprise. We are under a different set of rules and regulations. We have to allow Juan Savin and others to say the things they are instructed to say, because it is a military deception. Yesara and the QFS are going to take place, but this information is not going to be officially revealed yet. The heavens are really pleased. The coalition is very excited about this. We are working with divine timing. All will be perfect as it unfolds. Let us not to get too upset or too angry with the coalition about the way they are doing things, because when time comes, we will not have to worry about having problems with our governments trying to take our money or other people finding out who we are. Those kinds of people will take them from us and they won't cause us problems. We are just doing it their way. The mother of the lamb. This would be the root of all economic problems, according to the nomad economist. What made the empire great was the fact that the British Joe could work hard and provide for his family. It was called the American Dream, but something went wrong somewhere along the way, and the dream turned into a nightmare. In general, when a government stands firm and does not interfere in the personal and financial lives of its people, you can almost bet that things will remain fairly stable. Sooner or later, however, a government becomes a Frankenstein operation that must fit its giant creature called a bureaucracy. And the only way to fit that giant monster is with money, which then becomes the state's obsession, which is never enough. Soon the relationship of the state of the citizenry it is supposed to serve becomes exactly like that of a small-time mafia boss to his coerced victims. In quotes, "Where's my share? I want my share. Capisci?" In the end, the state's obsession with collecting money seeps into all stratas of society. When a family business takes root, Its purpose is to take care of the family, and this purpose is very noble. However, as large corporation displaced most family business, their sole purpose becomes the satisfaction of their greedy shareholders, who can never seem to make enough profit. Thus, profit becomes the unholy god. If there is not enough, employees who depend on their jobs to care for their families are laid off, are fired, without any sense of responsibility or mercy, while CEOs can still collect their multi-million-dollar paychecks, salaries that could easily be reduced and redistributed to keep more employees on board until a recovery. In truth, these CEOs need a hard adjustment. The bottom line is no longer family welfare, but corporate profit margins and bloated executive bank accounts. While there are many good citizens who still uphold good old-fashioned morality, there are also many who embraced greed as their main purpose in life. Greed is an ungodly cancer that plunges those who harbor it into moral and spiritual bankruptcy. Opinions. Puffiness said, "Please note that all products are stacked ready and waiting for final instructions. We know this is not what you want to hear, but you have all been waiting patiently for this to finally happen. Wait and be a little more patient, and you will see for yourself that it was all in good faith. There are those who do not believe in a single wheat that will ever spring forth. We wouldn't wait another day if that were not the case. Here we have the advantage, and you recognize it. But be assured that it is still in progress, and that it will make a difference when it can be planted where it belongs." The Collective, through Caroline Oceana Ryan. I have thought about how difficult it is for a starseed whose soul comes from a planet that are just, where there are not millions of people starving, or several million people subject to the horrors of war at any given time. They have no luck. They don't have people living in their cars. You don't have people locked out of their jobs, or held at the border for a year or more in unsafe conditions. All of these unjust situations, and these are just a few, do not exist on other higher dimensional planets. So the starseeds come here and have to deal with many things that simply don't make any sense to them, like wars. Tom Luongo opines on Palisades Gold Radio that Russia's operation in Ukraine has been quite impressive given the minimal amount of force. Russia is fighting a pretty cheap artillery war, and Ukraine is a huge country. Russia wants to leave Ukraine in a position where it can never threaten it again. Much of eastern Ukraine is historically Russian. Ukraine had outlawed the Russian language to create conflict since 2014. Tom believes there is a confluence of events that would happen at the end of September. There will be referendums in liberated parts of Ukraine to become part of Russia. The Federal Open Market Committee will meet at the end of September and is very likely to bring a surprise rate hike. There are also elections in Italy, which could take it out of the European Union. Tom explains the geopolitics between Europe, the UK and the US. US influence in Italy has put pressure on them to leave the Union. The banking system has largely insulated itself from the impacts of the European system. Banking interests seem to be in direct conflict with long-standing European interest. There is no need for commercial banks under the Davos desire for central bank digital currencies. These monetary systems would give those in charge a great deal of control. The ECB is capable of going bankrupt like the Fed. The euro is badly designed, perhaps deliberately. The ECB needs a higher gold price because it is the only asset that has value on its books. But the Fed doesn't want the dollar to be compromised by higher gold. By raising rates, the Fed may force a sovereign debt crisis in Europe. Basel III rules are about eliminating paper derivatives markets to improve the physical spot market. Tom believes the Fed will eventually raise rates to 6%. There will be massive capital flows into the US. Europe could be in big trouble, and hopefully the Davos crowd will soon disappear. Try to be flexible and take into account how the state of the game can change. The goal is to survive while playing these giants, and gold would be the only part of that equation. We all want to get through this as best as we can, and I wish the greatest good for as many humankind as possible. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.